there is some Vaush drama to get to, as always. Vaush always seemingly perma-trending on Twitter for getting himself into hot water. And sometimes it's kind of stupid, to be honest. Like, sometimes people go after him for, just silly reasons. But this is not one of those instances, in my opinion. This is a clip from the recent debate that Vaush had with Kyle Kulinski related to Russia and Ukraine, a debate that we reacted to live on the Vanguard. And
here first.
You guys saw it here first. But anyway, they clipped this. This is a 45-second clip. And as many people have pointed out, there's really no context which makes this look good. There's pretty much no way to slice this that doesn't make it just look completely disgusting and unconscionable and like Fox News level like warmongery. So we can take a look at this. But if you have anything to say, Zach, before we do, go ahead.
No, I remember when we listened to this live on the podcast, and I was like, holy shit. I believe I said something along the lines of, this is indistinguishable from a neocon on Fox News making this like bloodthirsty point. And then Gavin said, yeah, it's not very far of a stretch from a throne of Chinese skulls, which was one of the like pull quotes from this like rabid, bloodthirsty warmonger Republican. But this is Vaush, a guy who identifies as an anarcho-syndicalist. That's what he politically identifies as. He calls himself an anarchist. Remember that before he fucking tells you this argument. He is so politically delusional.
Actual geopolitical threats will change anything. I feel like the only thing we can do at this point is starve Russia out. We're wealthier than them by metrics. I mean, ally with all the countries in their periphery, sanction their leaders, cripple their economy, wait for them to bleed out, and then when they're ready to play ball, they can be a nice, compliant country.
I mean, but there's a lot of civilians that get hurt in that scenario.
In eastern Ukraine as well, yeah. But if they're going to be
we do
like
the sanctions on Russia, is what I'm saying, that would hurt a lot of civilians.
Not as much as their missile strikes would hurt Eastern Ukrainians, right? Again, keep in mind, this isn't out of spite. If actual geopolitical threat.
Yeah, so that's the clip restarted. But this is completely mind-blowing, and Kyle's just like a little dumbfounded. It sounds like you can't see the guy. He's just on the call, but he's like, well, Vaush, somebody who claims to have humanitarian values in their heart, how are you just going to advocate for the starving of civilians? I mean, have you ever read a history book before, Vaush? Sanctions don't impact the fucking leadership. Guess what? People I mean, when have sanctions ever worked? Like, are you going to sit here and be like, yeah, we sanctioned the shit out of North Korea and that made things better? Like, we cut off Iran and that was a bounty for our diplomacy with them. Like, what are you fucking talking about? This has always been a disaster. It's always escalated tensions, and it's never solved the problem before. And not only that, you're taking it out on vulnerable civilians who almost exclusively have absolutely no say in what their government is fucking doing in these countries. So you're saying, you know what? My geopolitical chess game requires me to starve X many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of individuals. Yeah, that's an easy calculation, because once they're all starving and, bled out and whatever, then they'll be willing to play ball. Then they'll be our little bitch, basically. That's what he's saying. How is that any different than the kind of shit you hear on Fox News from the most bloodthirsty, rabid, fucking warmongers? I don't know how you justify that at all and find it in your heart to call yourself a humanitarian or a leftist.
Yeah, and when Kyle says, yeah, a lot of people are going to die because of that, right? And he says, well, a lot of people are going to die in Ukraine. This is just not an apt comparison whatsoever. Let me pull this up real quick. Here's a Wikipedia article. So, this can, they're not going to be, if anything, they would over-exaggerate these numbers is what I'm trying to say. During the Russian annex of Crimea in 2014, 6 people were killed. The dead included 3 protesters, 2 pro-Russian and 1 pro-Ukrainian, 2 soldiers and 1 Crimean trooper. 6 fucking people died the last time they did something like this. So how are you going to say that letting them do it again is going to be more deadly somehow, result in more casualties than crippling economic sanctions, as he said, starving them out? Let's look at what's going on in Afghanistan right now. More people are actually dying in Afghanistan right now as a result of our sanctions of starvation than were due to our military presence and occupation and war, literal war in that country. This is absolutely ridiculous, incredibly cruel and inhumane, and not the language of an anti-war person, let alone someone on the left at all. This is genuinely mind-blowing, and a lot of people have been pointing this out on social media. Again, even people that might traditionally align more with Vaush when it comes to their politics are like seemingly dumbfounded by his just disgusting disregard for humanity, and his just blatant pro-America framing here. I can try to pull up some of those reactions, but did you see some of that too, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, the chickens are starting, kind of like you said, he's kind of burning all of his bridges with everybody who used to consider him like a reasonable, good faith actor. Like, Shoe on Head, for example. I don't think she's going to be out here campaigning for fucking U.S. Invasion of Ukraine. Oh shit, is that Vaush? That's hilarious. I don't know.
We have all kinds of people in the chat today. Again, it's hard to tell with these imposters. So, who fucking knows? Who fucking knows? Obviously, if you're trying to debate us, Vaush, send us an email or something. But you never know. It is funny because Vaush has found an unlikely defender in Tim Pool. You always know you're in the right when you find Tim Pool on your side. Tim says, Vaush, let's not bomb people. Let's just sanction them. It's less brutal. Critics, Vaush wants to kill civilians. Why do we have to choose one or the other? What about the third option, which is to not fucking intervene militarily and result in the deaths of like thousands of people? It's not like the only two options are to bomb or to sanction. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, it's pretty funny, again, that Tim Pool is now on his side. But yeah, there's some pretty good responses here. Vaush fans are extremely mad at my incredibly courageous stance against collectively starving children to death based on the country they were born in. What are you going to say? Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, if you just type in Vaush to Twitter, you'll see like lots of hate here. I'm trying to find some good ones. I swear to God, I saw some like higher profile people reacting to this. Again, David Griscom like called him a piece of shit or something. Lots of people are dunking on Vaush, and again, this one is pretty hard to defend in my opinion. Sometimes a Vaush clip goes viral. And you watch it and you're like, damn, that's crazy. And then you listen to the context surrounding it and you're like, oh, okay, he's kind of right. Again, this is not one of those instances. He's just being a hawk here. He's just being a cruel pro-America kind of, propagandist, honestly, for what's going on right now. And again, I'll remind you, not even the president of Ukraine wants this to happen. The president of Ukraine is out here saying that this is crazy, that we need to pump the brakes and stop panicking, stop creating panic over this situation. So, maybe if nothing else convinces you, you should listen to the country in question that's being annexed or that's being,
invaded, I believe was the term that you
I was going to say encroached on.
But yeah, I mean, look, there's no real evidence that that's happened or that is going to happen. A lot of it is fear mongering from the United States and, just hauling ass and fucking sanctioning them directly. I mean, that's not a good idea. It's a very bad idea. It's going to only increase tensions and it's going to harm the most vulnerable. It's not going to fucking affect what Putin has for dinner. Okay, it's not going to make his life harder in any meaningful sense. It's just going to, hurt the poor, which is the only thing our fucking country's good at, apparently, going overseas to devastate poor people. Yeah, he called him what a nasty little guy. David Gristom's too polite to say anything like what a little fucking piece of shit. So he just says, what a nasty little guy. And honestly, I think that hits even harder. So I favorited that last night, I believe. But yeah.
Yeah, and let's just listen to this quick clip one more time in case anyone is just showing up or just needs to, hear it once more, because it is crazy what he's saying and the implications of it. Let's take this from the top.
Actual geopolitical threats will change anything. I feel like the only thing we can do at this point is starve Russia out. We're wealthier than them by metrics. I mean, ally with all the countries in their periphery, sanction their leaders, cripple their economy. Hold on.
He said sanction their leaders. That's not a real fucking thing. I mean, they will bleed every fucking resource in that goddamn country until the leaders don't feel fucking thing. Like North Korean leadership still fucking does lives in opulent, right? And I know I'm gonna get a fucking bunch of tankies in the comments. North Korea is paradise. Okay, whatever.
Sanction their leaders, cripple their economy, wait for them to bleed out. And then when they're ready to play ball, they can be a nice, compliant country.
I mean, But there's a lot of civilians that get hurt in that scenario.
Also,
In
there's another
Eastern
clip
Ukraine as well.
that I wish was going around too that I could pull up, but there was straight up a point in that interview where he says the proper response is for us to arm the Ukrainians to the teeth so that when Russians try to cross their border, they can kill as many as possible in the process. This is also a direct quote from Vaush. I promise it's from the same interview. If you want to go listen to the debate, you can. He says it 100%. This is disgusting. Again, we were talking about this on our other episode recently, but like, how is this any different than the jackass on Fox News saying we need to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls? Is it really that different? And of course, this guy's also pro-war with China over Taiwan and any number of other issues which he deems fit. But the point is, he's just a rabid fucking, propagandist when it comes to U.S. imperialism, when it comes to our geopolitical conflicts and game of chess that is being played. This is an outrageous standpoint. I really can't believe how someone like Vaush could be so correct on an issue like Palestine and Israel, for example, and then turn around and have such a dog shit take. It's just crazy to me.
Yep. And it's just showing his ass right here. I don't know any other way of saying it, right? This is a bad fucking look. This is bloodthirsty. This is, pro US hegemony. This is, imperialism in practice, right? Wanting to go overseas to arm another country. And I don't know. I guess imperialism isn't the correct word, but it is the United States overreach with our vast military that we would only feel confident doing this if we had our umpteenth hundreds of military bases, world global domination. This is a continuation of that. We don't want to see Russia do what we're able to do around the world. That's essentially what we're saying. And he gives this like fucking bullshit caveat in another part of this interview where he's like, if Central and South America wanted to band together with China and Cuba and Russia and, protect themselves from the United States, I would be for that. As if there is a single scenario in God's green earth where the United States would ever in their fucking lives let that happen. It would never happen. We would call it an act of war well before it ever got there. And we would go geothermal nuclear war, which just seems something that Vaush is not particularly stressed out about, not on his agenda of anxiety for the day. So anyway, I don't know. We've broken this down a lot. We did a whole react along to it. I feel like we've broken his balls thoroughly, but he just deserves it so much because this is so bloodthirsty and revealing.
Truly. And again, it just comes down to like, I get in principle, you want to protect the sovereignty of nations and their borders. Countries like Ukraine deserve the right to self-determination. Countries like Taiwan deserve the right to self-determination. Countries like Guam or Puerto Rico, the list goes on of all these countries that deserve their right to self-determination. I agree with that. Don't get me wrong. But in an age of nuclear war, where that is a very real, very scary possibility, no, I simply don't think it's worth it to risk over protecting the borders of Ukraine or Taiwan or any of these countries. And for the millionth time, I'll make this comparison. It also wouldn't have been a good idea for when we were annexing Guam or annexing the Virgin Islands. It wouldn't have been a good idea for a nuclear armed superpower like Russia or China to step in and decide to play the world police and decide to play the, last barrier between us and them. That would have resulted in a serious and terrifying conflict that, could have sparked World War III, which again is a much bigger concern than the sovereignty of Ukraine or Taiwan or any of these territories, which is not ideal. Again, I stand for their right to self-determination as much as anyone, but I also have some goddamn perspective and can prioritize and acknowledge that, maybe sometimes it's in the better interest of the entire globe and the safety of the entire globe's worth of citizens to take a hands-off approach and not spark World War III over the annexation of a territory. And again, I'll remind you, when Russia annexed Crimea, 6 people died. Only 6 people died. Far more people will die if the U.S. decides to intervene, decides to actually start a hot war with Russia. Way more people are going to die. So you cannot come at this from a humanitarian approach. You cannot tell me that, the real humanitarian anti-imperialist perspective is to protect Ukraine. No, it's not. That's going to result in more Ukrainian people dead, more innocent Russian people dead, and more American soldiers dead. Poor people that, had no other option than to join the sick, disgusting military so that they could have health care and ability to go to college and, in their opinion, further their lives and careers. Those people will die too over this geopolitical chess game. And it's insane to me that Vaush is just sitting here openly advocating for and regurgitating the State Department talking points and strategies.